The story of Private Joseph Pickard. John Joseph Pickard, or Joe as he was known, was an extraordinary man. A soldier with the 7th Battalion Northumberland Fusiliers, who experienced the very worst horrors of the First World War. In this photograph, taken in early 1915, Joe had just enlisted. The army offered him much-needed employment and an opportunity for excitement, a world away from Alnwick, where he'd grown up. To enlist, Joe lied about his age, saying he was 19 next birthday. He was really only 15 and a half. And he arrived in France in November 1916, when he was just 17 years old. For over a year, he survived the dreadful shelling, death, rats and lice of the trenches, until on the 31st of March 1918, Joe's luck ran out. Blown up by a shell, he suffered wounds so severe that a blanket was laid over him, and he was pronounced dead. Back home, Joe's parents were distraught to receive a telegram informing them of their son's death. Miraculously, in France, Joe came to.
I remember being in this sort of advanced clearance station. When I came home, it was dark. And I was lying on a stretcher, didn't know what was wrong with. It turned out there was a blanket over the top of us. I was left for dead.
Joe was alive, but his injuries were extensive.
A piece of shrapnel, it cut the sciatic nerve, it chipped both hip joints, it smashed the left side of the pelvis. There's 3 holes in the bladder. Oh, dear.
Looking in a mirror for the first time, Joe saw that his nose was completely missing.
My sister was standing one day at the table. I said, "Have you got a mirror in the bunk, sister?" She says, "Yes." I says, "Do you mind if I have a look at it? I cut all the bandages off to have a look at it." And she says, what do you think about it?" Well, I said, "What can I?" I said, "It's off, it's gone."
With good humour and resilience, Joe endured multiple operations to remove shrapnel from his body and to rebuild his nose using rib and cartilage grafts and the skin from his forehead. After 3 years in hospital, Joe was discharged, with months of recuperation still ahead of him.
One nostril's pretty well closed. I've got a pair of silver nostrils that I wore for a long time to keep them open. Then, of course, you get careless. I kept them for so long, I couldn't put it back in there. I thought if I get another 2, I'll make a pair of cufflinks.
Joe trained as a watch and clock repairer and married Belle in 1930. They started a family in Alnwick, and Joe spent the rest of his working life at J.W. Wilcox Jewellers. Despite his injuries, Joe lived into his 90s. He died in his hometown in 1991. You can discover more inspiring stories from our soldiers at the Fusiliers Museum of Northumberland at Alnwick Castle.